The luminary, the sun, has its rising in the eastern portals of the heaven. Let me stop right there. For those of you who have been seeing this erroneous teaching that our map is upside down and that the east is actually west and that the west is actually east, don't listen to that garbage. That is the language of Satan. Don't allow people to confuse you and you just take it in hook, line, and sinker. No, you need to do yourself a due diligence of studying the word of Yahuwah and not allowing people to sway you with their opinions. It tells you right here that the sun rises in the eastern portals, meaning that it rises in the east. That's exactly what it does. Every morning it rises in the eastern horizon. And so it goes on and says, and setting in the western portals of the heaven. And it says, and I saw 6 portals in which the sun rises. Now, I don't want to confuse you guys with these portals. Okay, that's a whole nother teaching. We're going to kind of stay a little surface today. We're not going to get deep into this. It talks about how there are 6 portals in which the sun sets and the moon rises and sets in these portals, these same portals. And the leaders of the stars, the Maserots, and those whom they lead, 6 in the east and 6 in the west. It's talking about 6 portals in the east and 6 portals in the west, and all following each other in accurately corresponding order. Also many windows to the right, which would be to the north, and to the left of these portals, which would be to the south. And those portals that are to the north and to the south, those are for weather patterns, okay? What you may know as jet streams, all right? So it goes on and says in verse 4, and his circumference is like the circumference of the heaven. It's telling you that it's circular, okay? His circuit, the sun's circuit, not the earth's circuit. Again, we've been lied to by NASA. We've been lied to by our educational system. They want us to believe that it is the earth that is revolving around this big old ball called the sun. No, actually, the earth is larger than the sun. The sun is smaller than the earth. That's why when you look up at the sky, everybody, you see this circular disc up there, this orb that is so bright that you can't see it with the naked eye, or you'll burn your cat. You'll burn the back of your I forget what they call it, but you know what I'm talking about. You'll burn it, and now you're probably blind forever. So you need to be careful when you're looking at the sun, but it's telling you that it literally revolves around the surface of the earth. Okay. And so it says that, like, if you used to lay on your back, the sky would look like a circle. And that's what it's saying here, that his circumference is like the circumference of the heaven. And he is quite filled with illuminating and heating fire. The chariot on which he ascends, notice it says the chariot or the vehicle or the motion on which he ascends, the wind drives. So there is an invisible force that is pushing the sun over our heads every day. And the sun goes down from the heaven and returns through the north in order to reach the east. And so it's guided that he comes to the appropriate portal and shines in the face of the heaven. So now, what does it mean by, so it goes down and then it goes through the north in order to reach the east? Again, for those of you who've seen this before, I'm going to do it again. You see that I have this map here underneath me, and I'm just going to show you a quick little illustration with my pen. Imagine that the tip of the pen is the sun. This way would be east, and this way would be west, that way would be north, and of course this way would be south. And so what you'll see is the sun coming from the east as it rises, and it goes from the east to the western horizon. But now what happens is that the sun, so it can go to the other side, because again, the earth is like a flat disc. It goes up towards the north from this location, so it can come back to the east again. And that's what it's saying here in the book of Enoch. Okay? Very simple. And so Enoch was shown this. And so it says, in this way, he, meaning the sun, rises in the first month in the great portal. What's the great portal? It's going to tell you, which is the fourth. Those 6 portals in the east. So the 4th portal in the east is the great portal. And in that 4th portal in which the sun rises in the first month are 12 window openings from which proceeds the flame when they are opened in their season. Again, those other openings or windows is for weather patterns. Now, when the sun rises in the heaven, he comes out through that fourth portal, 30 sunrises, or it says mornings here, in succession, meaning without breaking. It is one after the other, one after the other, one after the other in a series. And it sets accurately in the fourth portal in the west of the heaven. So now let's go back. It's telling us here that Enoch is starting off with the first day of the first month, what the sun is doing. It comes out of that great portal called the fourth portal from the east. That day when that happens, that is the spring equinox. Let's speed up and take you to the end when it makes a complete circle. Here at the end of this same chapter 72, it says, and that sun rises from that portal, meaning the east portal, and sets in the west and returns to the east and rises in the third portal for 31 mornings or 31 sunrises, and sets in the west of the heavens. On that day, the night decreases to the amount of 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts, and the night is equal to the day. You see that? The night is equal to the day. And the year is exactly as to its days, 364 days, just like it says in the book of Jubilees. What did it say in the book of Jubilees? Let's go back there real quick and let's see that again. Verse 38. For this reason, this is chapter 6, verse 38 of Jubilees. For this reason, I command and testify to you, Masha, to Moses, that you may testify to them, to the children of Yasharal. For after your death, Moses, your children, the children of Yasharal, will disturb the calendar, so that they will not make the year 364 days only. And for this reason, they will go wrong as to the new months, not moons, because you can't use the moon. You have to use the sun. We just read that in Jubilees chapter 2, verse 9. And the seasons and the Sabbaths and festival, they're going to go wrong to all of that if they follow the moon. And they will eat all kinds of blood with all kinds of flesh. So again, it says 364 days only. Same thing here. And the day to 9 parts, and the night is equal to the day, and the year is exactly to its days, 364. So we see 2 witnesses there. Enoch speaks of it, and Moses speaks of this 364-day calendar. So now, why the confusion? It's from Satan. Satan causes this confusion. Satan wants us to believe that we're supposed to follow the moon. And this is why these translators, which you'll find in a lot of translations of the scriptures, they will use the word moon, which causes confusion. This should be the word month, or the word more specifically, period, 30-day periods, because every month has 30 days to it. Okay? And so they would be 364 days. So now, if you do the math, my mind was on what it's supposed to come out to times 12. So 30 12-month periods comes out to 360. So you would say, but wait a minute, we just read where it said that there's supposed to be 4 more days, 364. Well, let me show you. Enoch, excuse me. And let's go to chapter 75. And so it says here, and the leaders of the heads of the thousands who are placed over the whole creation and over all the stars have also to do with the 4 intercalary days, being inseparable from their office, according to the reckoning of the year. Notice that, reckoning of the year, or the counting of the year. We're talking about these 4 intercalary days, or the 4 seasonal days, okay? And we'll explain that here in a second. These render service on the 4 days which are not reckoned or counted in the reckoning of a year. So that's why you saw me multiply 12 times 30, because each month has 30 days. How do we know this? Because even in scripture, we see this in the book of Daniel. We also see this in the book of Revelation. So once again, let me take you there so you can see this, because everything has to fit according to scripture. So let's go first to the book of Daniel. Daniel chapter 12, verse 11. Notice what it says here in Daniel 12:11. And from the time that which is continual is taken away, and the abomination that lays waste, yours may say, and the abomination of desolation is set up, is 1,290 days. Okay, now many of you may say, well, 1,290 days, what is that? Well, let me show you. First of all, it talks about here in chapter 7. Let me take you here. Chapter 7, verse 25. It says, and it speaks words against the Most High, speaking about this anti-Messiah, and it wears out the set-apart ones, or the saints of the Most High, and it intends to change the appointed times and law, again talking about the calendar, and they are given into its hand, meaning the anti-Messiah's hand, for time, times, and half a time. That one time is 1 year. Times with the plural on it, that's 2 years. So 2 plus 1 is 3, and half a time, that's 3.5 years. Well, 3.5 years, let me show you. 6 times 30 gives you what? 180 days. That's half of 360. Okay, so if we was to multiply that by 2, you would get 360. All right. 1,290. I meant to divide that by 30. It comes to 43, which means it's 43 months. Okay, 43 months. 42 months is exactly 3.5 years. So this is 3.5 years and 1 month. That's what we're reading here in Daniel chapter 12, verse 11. You see, I have 1,290 days equals 43 months. Okay, so now if we go to Revelation, I'm showing you that the scripture uses this 364-day calendar. It doesn't use the moon calendar that these Jewish people, again, I put the emphasis on ish, those who call themselves Israeli over there in Israel, they use the wrong calendar. You might have recalled reading this in Revelation chapter 12, where it says, and the woman, speaking of the 12 tribes of Israel, fled into the wilderness where she had a place prepared by Elohim to be nourished there for 1,260 days. That's 30 days less than the 1,290 days that we read in the book of Daniel. So hence 42 months instead of 43 months. Okay, it's the same thing that we see here, that it talks about how he, this anti-Messiah, in Revelation chapter 13, verse 5, was given a mouth speaking great matters and blasphemies or disrespects, and he was given authority to do so for 42 months. Again, that is 3.5 years, or 1,260 days. This is not by accident. It's showing you Daniel and Revelation are both using the same calendar. Okay, you're not going to have that same calendar if you're using a moon calendar. So now let me show you the moon calendar that a lot of people use. These are the people who follow what they call a lunar calendar or a lunar Shabbat. Now, I need you guys to understand this very clearly, so you're going to see why this calendar is wrong. This calendar is wrong. Notice that their Sabbaths are on these days, 8, 15, 22, and 29. Do you want to know why they think that that's the day, or that's the way that it's supposed to be counted? Let me show you why. Let's go back to Leviticus chapter 23. If you're one of these lunar Shabbat followers, you might want to think twice, because I'm showing you scripture after scripture, and I haven't even went into the Dead Sea Scroll yet. The Dead Sea Scroll just blows it out the water. It literally tells you that the book of Jubilees, the book of Enoch, the book of Daniel, and the book of Revelation is on point. Okay, not this mess that they're following. But anyhow, let's get into this. Notice here, starting in verse 6, Leviticus chapter 23, verse 6, where it talks about the Feast of Unleavened Bread, also known as the Feast of Matzah. And on the 15th day, notice it says 15th day, on this new month, they use the word moon because they follow the moon. It's the festival of Matzah to Yahuwah. 7 days you eat unleavened bread. On the first day you have a set apart gathering, you do no servile work, and you shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahuwah for 7 days. And on the 7th day is a set apart gathering, you do no servile work. These two right here, they believe because of the 15th day, and then you add 7 days to that, and you get what we know as the 22nd day. So they believe that the Sabbath is supposed to be on the 15th and the 22nd. And so they fill in the blank and you get what we see today as this lunar solar calendar. So you see here, 15th day and the 22nd day. But here is where it gets messed up. Now I need you guys to follow me. We're going to go down a little bit. We're going to not be surface dwellers for a second. We got to remember what happened to our Messiah. Okay? Let's go to what is called the Brit Hadashah, or also known as the New Testament. We're going to go to the book of Matthew. So here it is in Matthew chapter 26, verse 17. And on the first day of unleavened bread, notice what it says there. And on the first day of unleavened bread, the taught ones came to Yahusha, saying to him, where do you wish us to prepare for you to eat the Pesach, which is the Passover? Now, mind you, the first day of unleavened bread is not the first day of unleavened bread as you may know it. And let me show you here. Where's my bookmark? Let me leave that there. Let's go back here to Leviticus 23. I need you to see this. The first day of unleavened bread is known as Pesach, not the first day of Matzah. Two different things. And what I mean by that is you'll see here in a second. These are the appointed times of Yahuwah, the set apart gatherings, which you are to proclaim at their appointed times. Notice here it says on the first new month, on the 14th day, okay? The very next day, the 15th day, is the festival of Matzah. So the 14th day and the 15th day, this whole week is considered one celebration, and it was called the festival of Matzah. And I'm going to show you here in Exodus why that is all put together, and you'll see that here when we go to chapter 12 of Exodus. Exodus chapter 12, verse 17. And you shall guard the festival of Matzah, which is the festival of unleavened bread. For on the same day I brought your divisions out of the land of Mitzrayim, that is out of the land of Egypt. And you shall guard this day throughout your generations as an everlasting law. It says on the first month, on the 14th day, notice it says the actual date, on the 14th day of this first month, and I shouldn't have scratched that out. That was my fault. I was just scratching it out, but I should have kept that. On the first month of the 14th day of the new month, not moon, in the evening, you shall eat unleavened bread. So this happens on Pesach, on Passover. 14th day at the evening, you are to eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the new month in the evening. Okay, so it shows you there how long you're to keep this festival. So when we go back here to Leviticus chapter 23, once again, you see that the 14th day precedes the 15th day. So when we go back to Matthew, and the Talmudim or the disciples asked the master, our Messiah, where do you wish us to prepare you to eat the Pesach? Because it was the first day of unleavened bread. It was the 14th day. Now, this is very crucial to remember. The 14th day, okay? So as we continue to read, you're going to see that he did it properly. And he, meaning our Messiah, our Mashiach, said, go into the city to a certain man and say to him, the teacher says, my time is near, meaning his time to be unalived. I am to perform the Pesach, the Passover, at your house with my taught ones, with my disciples. And the taught ones did as Yahusha, that is his true name, not J-E-S-U-S, but Yahusha, which means I am is salvation, had ordered them and prepared the Pesach, the Passover. And when evening came, you notice I have it underlined because, again, the Messiah is going to keep the law. So when evening came, he sat down with the 12, and while they were eating, what were they eating? The Pesach, the Passover lamb. He said, truly I say to you, one of you is going to deliver me up. Okay, and this is when he institute what we know as, the Catholics call it communion, but it's not the communion. And then you have these Jewish people that call it the Seder. It's not called the Seder. This is the renewed agreement. This is the renewed contract. This is the renewed vows to our marriage vows. So he took and broke of the bread, and he said, take and eat it. It is my body. And then taking the cup, he gave thanks and he gave it to them. And he said, drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood, that of the renewed agreement. Again, not a new one, it's renewed, which is shed for many for the forgiveness of sins. But I say to you, I shall certainly not drink of this fruit of the vine from now on till that day when I drink it anew with you in the reign or the kingdom of my Father. Okay, so we're to only do this on Passover, not every first Sunday of the month, or not every Mass that they do over in the Catholic Church. No, that's breaking the contract. That you're not doing it as you have been taught. This is the way it was taught. This is the way it was instituted. So why do I bring this up? So now, again, we're going to use their calendar. This was supposed to happen on the 14th day. Okay, so now we know that after this, it says that they sang a song. How many of you guys know that the Messiah sang a song with his disciples? Yes, he did. He sang a song with them, and they went out to the Mount of Olives after that. And so he says here, all of you shall stumble in me this night. So now it's nighttime, because remember, they broke bread in the evening, and now it's night. They're up at the Mount of Olives at night. Let's continue. And so Kapha wants to know, who is it going to be that's going to stumble? I'll never stumble. I'm Kapha, who you know is Peter. He was like, that ain't never going to happen. I'm never going to deny you. And this is when the Messiah says, truly I say to you, talking about Kapha to Peter, that this night before the cock crows, you shall deny me 3 times. When does the rooster crow? Does it not crow in the morning? So this goes all the way through the night. Okay. Remember, he was up at the Garden of Gethsemane. He was sweating what was like blood drops off of his face. Okay. And so then they came to arrest him. And this is when Judas kissed him. It says, and going straight up to Yahusha, he said, greetings, Rabbi, and kissed him. This is what Judas Iscariot did. This happened at night. Okay. So they bring him to the high priest, Caiaphas, at this time. And they bring him here, it says, and those who had seized Yahusha led him away to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and the elders were gathered together. So this is over at the Sanhedrin court. And Caiaphas, you may know him as Peter, followed him at a distance to the courtyard of the high priest, and he went in and sat with the servants to see the end. And the chief priests and the elders and all the council, again, this is the Sanhedrin court, were seeking they were false witnessing against him. They're breaking one of the 10 commandments against Yahusha to put him to unaliving, but they found none. Although many false witnesses came forward, they found none. But at last, 2 false witnesses came forward and said, this one said, I am able to destroy this dwelling place or this temple of Elohim and build it in 3 days. Notice the word 3 days. Because again, we know that was prophesied, right? What did the Messiah says? Because the Pharisees wanted to see a sign. He says, no sign shall be given except the sign of Jonah. As Jonah was in the belly of the well for 3 days and 3 nights, so shall the son of Adam be in the belly of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. Okay, 3 days and 3 nights. Very crucial. Okay. So it goes on and says this happens all through the night. They're false testifying against him. They're slapping in his face. They're just disrespecting our Messiah. Okay. So then it goes on and says, verse 20, chapter 27, and the morning having come. So this is the next morning. So here we are now on the 15th. We're on the first day of unleavened bread. We are no longer on the Passover. The Passover is from evening to morning. We are now at the first day of unleavened bread, the 15th. And according to these people, it's the Sabbath right now. Okay, just to let you know, it's the Sabbath. Okay, this is what these lunar solar calendar folks want you to believe, that it is now the Sabbath. I just showed you through scripture. He kept the Passover on the 14th according to scripture. He broke bread in the evening. He went before the Sanhedrin court through the whole night, and now here it is in the morning. So now we pick it back up here in chapter 27. And it says, in the morning having come, all the chief priests and the elders of the people took counsel against Yahushua, that is our Messiah, so as to put him to unaliving. And having bound him, they led him away and delivered him to Pontius Pilate. So now he's in front of Pontius Pilate. Okay, so now we're going to speed this up. So this is going through the day. We know the story. They whip him and all this stuff. They let Barabbas go. Okay. And Pontius Pilate says that he's going to release him. And what did our people say? They said, no, let his blood be on us and our children. Okay, so they kept him. And so what did what's his name say? Pontius Pilate. He was like, I wash my hands of this innocent man. His blood is not on my hand. It's on you and your children. He was done with it. Okay. That's what it says here. And all the people answering, let me back up here. And when Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere because he didn't see anything wrong with this man, what has he done? That's what it says here. And the governor says, indeed, what evil has he done? You see that is capitalized there. It's talking about our Messiah. And they were crying or yelling out all the more, saying, let him be impaled. Your translation will say the pagan word, crucify him. And when Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere, but rather an uproar was starting. And he took water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this righteous one. You shall see to it. And all the people answering and said, his blood be on us and our children. This is what brought about the curse of the true Yahudim people, which is the reason why, again, this is a whole nother story for a whole nother time, for a whole nother thing. But this is what brought the curse upon the true Jews. And then he released Barabbas to them, but having Yahushua whipped, he delivered him over to be impaled. Now this is all happening on the 15th. On the 15th, okay? And so, long story short, we know later on that day, they impaled him. And they put this sign over his head, that this is Yahushua, the sovereign of the Yahudim, or of the Jews. And so it says here, in about the 9th hour, which will be about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the Messiah, Yahushua, cried out with a loud voice, saying, Ali, Ali, lama sabatini. That is, my mighty, why have you forsaken me? Some of those standing there, having heard, said, this one's calling to Eliyahu. You may know him as Elijah. And immediately one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with sour wine and put it on the reed and gave it to him to drink. But the rest said, leave it. Let us see if Eliyahu or Elijah comes to save him. And Yahushua cried out again with a loud voice and gave up the Ruach, the spirit. And then, of course, we know that the veil was torn from top to bottom, and he gave up his spirit. So he was unalived on the 15th. Now, you remember, here it talks about Joseph of Arimathea. It says he was a rich man. He asked for him to be taken down, and he went to Pontius Pilate and asked for the body of Yahushua. Then Pilate commanded that the body be given. Okay, now there was a reason why he wanted the body to be taken down. Why? Because he said that it was a high Sabbath. So let's go here. I believe it's in John. Let's see here. Okay. So when Yahushua it says, bowing his head, therefore, since it was the preparation day, that is, the body should not remain on the stake on the Sabbath, for that Sabbath was a high one. You see that there? For that Sabbath was a high one. And the Yahudim asked Pilate to have their legs broken, that they be taken down. Here it is, the 15th day. Now, according to these lunar solar calendar people, they're saying this is already the Sabbath. Okay. Their mistake is that they're thinking that his body needs to be taken down because it was Saturday, what they call their Shabbat. I'm using a pagan word here so you guys understand. The seventh day, so they want to put him down because it's the high Sabbath. Well, we know what the scripture says. He is going to be in the belly of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. So now let's use their calendars to see if this makes sense. So this is the first evening he's in the tomb, the first night. Second night. Third night. Okay, do you see something wrong here? The first day, there's no first day here because he was unalived in the afternoon. So his first night was the first time he was actually in the tomb. Okay, according to the scripture. So the evening first, and then night, and then evening and night, evening and night. The first day is here. Second day and third day. He says 3 days and 3 nights he would be in the belly of the earth. Notice what day that is. That's not the first day of the week, is it? Even though the scripture says in the book of Matthew, he was actually raised on a Sabbath, not on the first day of the week, according to Mark, Luke, and John. But that's a whole nother study. But using their calendar, you see that it doesn't line up with the 3 days and 3 nights. It doesn't line up. The first day of the week is all the way back over here. He already passed the first day of the week. He was just unalive here. What did he do? Come back from the dead here on the first day, on the 16th? That would break the scriptures of what he said, that he would be in the belly of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. That's why this calendar is wrong. That's why this calendar is wrong. Let me show you what the true calendar shows. Let me show you the true calendar. Here's the first month, Kadash 1. Same thing. Here's the 14th day right here. This is when he did the Passover. Okay, the Messiah did the Passover this evening, this night. He was arrested at this night. The next morning, chapter 27 of Matthew, he was taken before Pontius Pilate. This is the first day. This is where he was whipped, beat, tortured, and then he was put on the stake. And then he was unalived because this was the high Sabbath. They had to bring his body down. He was in the grave that night. First night, second night, third night. You see here, what's coming up is the Sabbath. Now let's do the day. Remember, this was his first time in the grave that night. Here's the first day, second day, and on the third day, he resurrected. Shabbat. He resurrected on the Sabbath. That's why it says that here in Matthew chapter 28. Matthew chapter 28, verse 1. But late in the Sabbath, they came here late in the Sabbath, as it was dawning into day 1 of the week. Remember, here's the Sabbath, the 18th. As it was dawning, that means that the sun is getting ready to come up on the 19th. Miriam of Magdala and the other Mary came to the tomb, and see, there was a great earthquake. His body was already gone. It says, and they came out, for a messenger of Yahuwah came down out of heaven. A messenger in your translation would say angel, and came and rolled back the stone from the door and sat on it. And his appearance was like lightning, and his garments as white as snow. And the guards trembled for fear of him, and became like dead. They fainted because they saw this angel. And this messenger, this angel, responded and said to the women, do not be afraid, for I know that you seek Yahusha, that is the Messiah, who was impaled. He is not here, for he was raised, as he said. Come see the place where the master lay. The master was gone. This is the true calendar. Passover, he did that with his disciples. They arrested him that night. They took him before Pontius Pilate. They put his body on the pagan cross. He was put into the tomb first night, second night, third night, first day, second day, and on the third day he would rise again. He rose as the sun was coming up on the Sabbath. This is why This is the true calendar. But I'm going to show you some more just to show you that their calendar is wrong. Because there's this one sister, and she's not here to defend herself, so I can't speak of her. But she was swearing up and down that her calendar is correct. And this is the calendar that her and many others follow. I used to follow this. And so this caused me to have issues, because I realized, I'm like, well, this doesn't make sense. How was the Messiah unalived in 3 days and 3 nights? And it doesn't line up with the whole gospel account, according to this calendar. Let me show you one more reason why this calendar is wrong. Let's go back to Leviticus chapter 23. Let's see here. Chapter 23, verse 15. And the morrow, to say tomorrow after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought the sheaf wave offering, you shall count for yourselves 7 complete Sabbaths. Until the morrow after the 7th Sabbath, you count 50 days. It's telling you how many days you're supposed to count. Then you shall bring a new grain offering to Yahuah. Okay, and it tells you what you're supposed to do. But it talks about how this is supposed to happen 50 days, okay? 49 days if you do 7 times 7, because every 7 days is 7, which is a Shabbat. So it says here again, 7 completed Sabbaths. So 7 completed Sabbaths will be 49 days. So it says until after that, or after that day, the 7th Sabbath, you count 50 days. 50 days, okay? Now, if you do that count, according to their calendar, the moon calendar, that's 1 Sabbath. Or let me back up. This is the way their calendar is set up. Okay. This would be the count right here, the 29th, on their account. So that would be the first Sabbath. And then you have a 30th day, which they say doesn't count. And then you have the first day, which the moon might not even show up. So you might have 2 actual days before they start counting again, because they need to see the sliver of the moon for it to be the new moon day. Once they see the sliver of the moon, then they start their count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's why it's off. It's not, this should be 7, right? If you went by their own moon day cycle. But this whole calendar is erroneous. So again, after counting from what it says here, because this is the first fruits harvest, they're supposed to do this on the morrow after the Sabbath. Okay. So the morrow after the Sabbath, they're supposed to count starting this day. But they're not going to count that day because they only go by the moon cycle. And the moon cycle is normally 29 days and sometimes 30. And so if you average it out through the whole year, it's 29 and a half. This is why the moon cycle is 354 days and not 364 days, just like it says in the book of Jubilees. And true calendar, you see here where we have the first day, you see that there? And it has number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. So we show you that here so you can see this is that Sabbath. The day after this Sabbath, you're to start your count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. Right here, you see 5 Shabbats. And then it's 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. That's 6th and 7th Shabbat. Remember, 7 completed Sabbaths. And on the next day is the Feast of Weeks, Shavuot, also known as Pentecost. We know that this is supposed to be on the 3rd month, on the 15th day. Why do we know this? Because let me show you what it says in the book of the Dead Sea Scrolls. complete Dead Sea Scrolls in English, okay? Let me get both of my hands here. Oh, here it is. Okay. This is in 4Q 394 document. Okay, this is the fragment number 4Q 394. Let me back this up a little bit so you guys can see it. So here it talks about the 16th of it on the second month is a Sabbath, okay? And then it goes on and says the 23rd of it is a Sabbath on the second month, and the 30th of it is a Sabbath, and on the 7th of the third month is a Sabbath. On the 14th of it is a Sabbath. On the 15th of it is the Feast of Weeks. The 15th of what? Of the third month. That's exactly what you see here. The third month, Kadash 3, date number 15, because that's 16, 15, will always be Shabuot. Always. And this is why you saw what I was doing by counting. So you know that was the 49th day, that was the seven Sabbaths, and then you have the Shabuot. Well, you can't count like that on this other calendar because this other calendar is going to break it up. This is why we know you can't use this calendar. This calendar is erroneous. You need to throw this out. You need to throw it out with the garbage. Anyone who's following the moon and following the sliver of the moon, don't follow it. You're going to be lost. You would be in error and you won't know the true calendar. And since you don't know the true calendar, you won't be able to keep the fourth commandment, which means you are to keep the Shabbat and keep it separated. Because you don't know what the true Shabbat days are, because they believe every month is going to be like this, 8, 15, 22, 29, according to the lunar cycle. They're not following the true calendar. And the true calendar, it doesn't fall like that. The Sabbath doesn't fall on the 8th and the 15th and the 22nd and the 29th. It's different. So it's different. So you see here, again, those numbers don't add on here. This is the way it is. The fourth of every 3 months, or every fourth month, you're going to see it's going to be 4, 11, 18, and 25. So these calendar beads that we send out to people, it makes it a little easier. And I don't know if our brother Ed is here tonight, but he's the one who came up with this idea. And I think it's a very great idea that he came up with. So let me lay this out so you guys can see this calendar that lines up. And what you're seeing here, on this calendar here, it's 364 beads on this calendar bead, okay? And what you're seeing is all the silver beads are your Sabbaths. We have 52 Sabbaths a year because there's 52 weeks in a year. Okay, 364 divided by 7 is exactly 52. Exactly 52. All right. The yellow ones on this calendar bead, these are all the high days. Okay, so this is the spring equinox. This is the day that we're supposed to put. Of course, we don't do this anymore, but this would have been the day that we would set aside that 1-year-old male lamb without any spot or wrinkle, which would be on the 10th day of the first month. That would be the one that would be unalived on the 14th day for the Passover. But again, we don't do this anymore. Okay, but we put this here because it talks about it. Because the Messiah is our Passover lamb. And so this is the 14th, which would be Passover. Then you have the 7 days of unleavened bread, okay, with the Shabbat right there in the middle. And then you have the Feast of First Fruits right there. Okay. And then the second month, because there's 12 strands for 12 months. So the second month is for those who missed the first Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Okay. So that was a makeup month. For those who didn't do it the first month, they're able to do it the second month. Well, here's the third month. 15 beads or 15 days from the bottom is the third month on the 15th day. That's what we know as Shavuot or Pentecost. Okay. And then we have here the summer solstice. And then the next one is the fall, which is the fall equinox. Day of Atonement on the 10th day. And then here, starting on the 15th day, we have what we know as the Feast of Tabernacle. And then the last great day of the Feast of Tabernacle. This is the winter solstice. And And so that's the whole year right there. These up here, we have the last Shabbat, and then we have 3 days here at the very end, which is 362, 363, and 364th day. And then the solar cycle, which has 365 days and a quarter, that would be that day. And every 4 years, you have the leap year, which is the 366th day. Once you count that every year, and then the 4th year you have the 366, you start back over here, and you go back through the 364-day count all over again. These here at the top just separates your seasons. That's all it does. It just separates your seasons. So this is your spring season, these 3 months. Your summer seasons, these 3 months. Your fall seasons, these 3 months. And your winter, the 3 months of winter. This is why we know this is the true calendar. You can't follow what this lunar cycle is you're going against scripture. You're going against the book of Jubilees. You're going against the book of Enoch. You're going against the book of Daniel. You're going against the book of Revelation. It speaks on these. Okay, I showed those to you. Yes, tomorrow is the last day of the 11th month, and we'll be going into the last month after that, Aki. And so here, that's what we just talked about, the lunar solar calendar. It's wrong. The Gregorian 7-day calendar, that's wrong. Why is that wrong? Because those who think that right now is the Sabbath from evening to evening, which they've learned from the Hillel 2 calendar, is totally wrong. Because what you got is one of those days, if every 7 days cyclically, oh, that's so hard to say, tongue twister, you get into an issue. Okay, so let me see if I can bring this up here. Okay, so this is the regular calendar that most people follow. Okay, here we are still in this month. All right, and they say every 7 days. So every Saturn's day, they say it's a Sabbath, a Sabbath, a Sabbath, a Sabbath, and then going into March, it's a Sabbath, a Sabbath, a Sabbath, right? Okay, so here's the thing. Let me pull this up because I don't know, I don't follow the anymore, but I'm gonna pull it up here. I'm gonna ask Google, what does the Jewish people say is gonna be the Passover for 2025? Passover. And again, these are those people that call themselves Jews, the Jewish people, okay? And here they say, Passover begins at sundown Saturday, April 12th. Okay? April 12th. All right, so now let's go here. And this is very ironic. Oh, this is crazy. This is going to make my point. April 12th. Let's see here. I went too far. Did I do that right? Where is it? April. Oh, yeah, here it is. April 12th. This year, Passover falls on a Shabbat. Now, they got a dilemma, family. Think about this for a minute. For those of you who know about the Sabbath, we're not to kindle a fire, okay? That's number one. It's supposed to be a day of rest. But yet, they say that this day is the Passover. So their Passover, where they're supposed to cook a lamb, okay, which these Jewish people will do, they will cook a lamb, which means that they have to kindle a fire, and they're going to be cooking, which they're not supposed to be cooking on the Sabbath. Which one takes precedence? Is it the Sabbath that takes precedence over the Passover, or does the Passover take precedence over the Shabbat? This is how you know their calendar is messed up. You can't use it. You can't use it. The Passover will never fall on the 7th day. It'll never fall on the 7th day. I don't know why I just hit that, but it just took me to a whole nother thing here. The Passover will never, ever, on Yah's true calendar, ever land on the same day as the Sabbath. Again, to show you here on the true calendar, you see here, Passover will always be on the 3rd day of the week on Yah's calendar. Not the third day of the Gregorian calendar, the third day of Yah's week, okay? Because Yah's weeks do not connect with the Gregorian calendar. The Gregorian calendar and Yah's calendar are two different things. And so here, you see that here's the Passover and the Shabbat. They will never intersect with one another. They are separate days unto themselves. So every day has its own day. That's why when you read that in Leviticus chapter 23, there is no confusion. Because the Shabbat will always be the Shabbat. The Passover will always be the Passover. The Feast of Unleavened Bread that week will always be the Feast of Unleavened Bread. They're never going to coincide with the other. The Shabbat will always be to itself. And this is another reason why you know that this calendar, unlike the lunisolar calendar, and unlike the Gregorian calendar, and unlike the Hillel 2 calendar that these Jewish people follow with the moon, those are wrong. Those are all wrong. And some of you might even been looking at the World's Last Chance right here. World's Last Chance calendar. Their calendar is wrong. You can go and look at theirs as well. Wrong. These people that call themselves Zadok Way Ministry, their calendar is wrong because they like to start their calendar on a Wednesday because they always want their Shabbat to be on a Saturday. That's messed up. It doesn't start like that. But again, that's a whole nother teaching. The only calendar that is correct is this one right here. Yah's calendar that he gave to Enoch, that he also showed to Moses, that he also told, and that all of them were following while they were in the wilderness was Moses and the children of Israel. But they went away from it, just like it was prophesied in Jubilees chapter 6, that they would go away from the true calendar after Moses' death. And that's exactly what they did. They went away from the true calendar. And so I just wanted to come up here to show you guys that today. Because when you actually look at this, and it's really fascinating. Yes, anyone who's interested in the calendar, we have a link. I call it a website, but my sister calls it a link tree because I'm a little old-fashioned. Royalty, there is no 13 months. We just got done talking about that. You're breaking scripture, my friend. You can't find a 13th calendar anywhere, a 13th month anywhere in scripture, Royal. But you're going to be stuck on your way, so I'm not even going to spend time. But if you're here to listen and you're here to learn, I can show you right now in the book of the book of Enoch, chapter 72, how there's 12 months. First month, 30 days. Second month, 30 days. Third month, 31 days. Fourth month, 30. Fifth month, 30. Sixth month, 31 days. Seventh month, 30. Eighth month, 30. Ninth month, 31 days. 10th month, 30. 11th month, 30. 12th month, 31 days. There it is. It's only 12. There's only 12 months, and they all equal to 364 days. There's no 13th month. People that teach that stuff is causing confusion, and they're going against Yahuwah's calendar. Yahuwah's calendar is very specific. And again, let me show you guys this. For those of you who want a beaded calendar, just DM me. You can DM me and I'll get to you. But do give me a week or two because I am really, really behind. Okay. But here's a diagram again. 30 days, 30 days, 30 days. And that little sliver right there, that's 31 days. Let me blow this up a little bit more. Every month has 30 days. 30, let me see if I can get that to come in. 30, 30, 30. That little sliver right there, the autumn equinox, that makes it 31 days. 30, 30, 30, 31 days. 30, 30, 30. So if you add all the 30s, that's 360. And then if you count those 4 days that we just read about in Enoch Chapter 75 that are not reckoned to a year, that adds to 364 altogether. That's why you see it there, Enoch calendar 364. But it's not even really Enoch's calendar. Enoch received it from Yah. It's Yah's calendar. Okay? 364. No 13th month. You see right there, you count all those, there's 12 months. You got 6 on this side and you got 6 on this side. All right? All this 13th month crap, that's for people who follow the moon, because what happens is you're going to be 10 days behind every year. And after the 3rd year, which is the Hillel calendar, you have to add a 13th month. That's their leap month. And that is not scriptural. Thank you for that. Thank you. Like I said, Yahuwah is revealing his truth to his people. If they have eyes to see and ears to hear, they are going to understand this. But if you're stuck in your ways and you want to keep staying in your delusional thoughts, and you think that there's 13 months, or you think that you're supposed to follow the moon, or you think you're going to follow the Gregorian calendar and think that every Saturday is your Shabbat, and you think that it starts at evening when the sun goes down, you are lost. You are disobedient. You are not following the true calendar. This is why Yahuwah says in the last days that knowledge shall increase. We are those people. We're the ones who are going to learn this. And you need to learn this, because the only way you're able to keep the Shabbat, to keep his commandments, is that you know the true calendar. Without knowing the true calendar, you can't keep the 4th commandment. Just like I was sharing with people a few weeks ago when we was doing a calendar study. There's a reason why the 4th commandment, talks about the Shabbat. He could have made the 3rd commandment, he could have said, remember to keep the Sabbath. Or he could have said the 5th commandment, remember to keep the Sabbath. No, he made it the 4th commandment. He also told us that the first day of the year is the 4th day of his week. This is why we know 3 days later is the first Sabbath, which happens to be the 4th day of the year. All these 4s, and that the sun comes out of the 4th portal, which is the spring equinox, which will allow us to know when you can find your day, which is the Sabbath, 4 days later. Yah is into numbers. We know this. Yes, royalty. So you get that, right? He didn't have a 13th tribe. There's only 12 tribes. There's only 12 patriarchs. There's only 12 months. Nelly, I don't know if I looked at Promote the Truth calendar, so I can't really speak on it. If it doesn't line up with what I showed you, then it's erroneous. Right now, Tamara, the true Shabbat right now is what you know as Saturn's Day, which is tomorrow. But after the spring equinox, it's going to move forward. It's going to be what you know as Sunday for the next 364 days. Or for the next 52 weeks, I should say. And then the year after that, it's going to fall on the pagan calendar Monday for the next 52 months.